King Charles and Queen Camilla have arrived in Samoa on the second leg of their royal tour, the biggest overseas trip for King Charles since his cancer diagnosis. The couple have had a day of engagements. They've got that tomorrow before meeting Commonwealth leaders at the end of this week. Our Australia and Pacific correspondent Katie Watson sent this from Samoa.
This small island nation extended a big welcome to the King and Queen. It's the first time King Charles has attended the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting as monarch. It's also a first for a Pacific island to host the summit, and Samoa's pulling out all the stops to make a success of it. The main road from the airport to the capital is one long welcome party. Villagers across Samoa's main island have been sprucing up their homes, ready for this week's visitors.
We are Samoan people, we always extend our hospitality. Same with the king. We were so, have this to great opportunity to welcome him.
The king may be in the spotlight, but so too are the issues that matter to him. And they're issues that also matter to islanders. The Pacific is particularly vulnerable to rising sea levels, while here the king has chosen to visit a mangrove restoration project and the national park, highlighting the effects of climate change. It's a packed schedule in Samoa, as it was in Australia. On Friday, he'll be speaking to Commonwealth leaders before flying back home. Katie Watson, BBC News in Samoa.
Well, Samoa is a Pacific island nation made up of 9 islands and with a population of just 218,000 people. King Charles will be staying in a small village on the south coast, down from the capital Apia, called Simu, where more than 1,000 people reside. With me is our reporter Vandana Ban. Vandana, you are from this part of the world. I won't ask you why on earth you're choosing to live in London, but that's a separate conversation. Just tell us, what are you hearing about the sort of preparations and the reception for this royal visit? Because obviously the royals have had a bit of a trickier time in Australia, haven't they?
Yeah, well, this is a big moment for Samoa, actually, as it is for any Pacific Island nation when the royals visit. There's an element of celebrity fanfare when the royals come, and so they are very warm towards the royals. Unlike perhaps what we saw in Australia. There is, in fact, the chief of the village, Simu, says he'll be bestowing a title on the king, a chiefly titled called Tiu Tau Mesina, during a traditional ceremonial welcome. So a very warm welcome for the king. In regards to the preparations, we've seen some of the preparations there, but they're taking security very seriously as well. In the village of Simu, the men have been called in to enforce nightly curfews in the village while the king is there, and that's not uncommon in Pacific Island nations. But also in the months leading up to this event, police officers did a gun amnesty, and hundreds of guns and unlawful ammunitions were actually traded in for roughly 15 pounds of food vouchers. So there's been preparations going on for some time. They're taking it very seriously. As many leaders are saying, this is Samoa's time on the global stage. We might see the king and queen strolling down some beautiful beaches through some gorgeous sceneries, and many are hoping that that's really going to boost Samoa's tourism and economy.
Obviously, climate change is a key issue in this part of the world. But is reparations, as we've seen that issue debated, for example, in the Caribbean, is that an issue here?
I think, like we saw the heckling in Australia, we might not see the same thing in Samoa. In terms of reparations and the anger in Samoa, that's more towards climate change, like you mentioned, and as it is for other Pacific Island nations, so there might be some climate protesters. But in terms of the slave trade reparations in the Caribbean that we've seen and the calls for an apology, it's key to note that Pacific Island nations and Samoa don't necessarily share the same slave trade history as those nations. And I can say that for myself as a Fijian Indian, that my ancestors and other Fijians didn't go through that. Rather, it was labourers, which is a much more forgiving idea. So not necessarily going to see that, but that's not to say that settlers and settler violence didn't occur in these countries. We can't forget that. There were the Germans in Samoa, followed by the Brits and New Zealand did actually apologise for some of the events that happened during their rule in Samoa.
Well, Vandana, if you're going back home on holiday, I'm coming with you. The pictures look amazing, and from what you've told us, it sounds gorgeous. Thank you so much for being with us.